Hello, everyone. Welcome to Follow the Money, brought to you by Nairametrics. My name is Ugo Dre, and of course, we do this every Monday, 8 to 8:30 a.m. on this channel. Of course, you can catch YouTube version on our YouTube channel, Nairametrics TV. Just go to Nairametrics on YouTube and just search for Nairametrics, and then you see previous versions of Follow the Money podcast. Of course, on this podcast, we talk about Nigerian stock market, and we point you to the gainers and losers for the week and the top news from Nigeria's capital market. Which stock made the major move during the week? So you get to hear all of that on this show. What a week it was last week. Of course, the all-share index extended its winning streak to 7 straight weeks. Like, can you imagine that? 7 whole week. And the all-share index surged 4.26% to close at 126,149 points. I don't think I've seen the Nigerian stock market do this well in a single week. I mean, like, you tend to see 4% gain in an entire month. But you're seeing 4.26% gain in 1 week. That's a damn strong rally. And that rally was basically driven by banking and insurance stocks. I mean, for more details, of course, market cap jumped from 76.8 trillion to 79.8 trillion. So we're gradually knocking on that 80 trillion door. I remember when we were still at 60-something trillion, and I did celebrate when we did 70 trillion. So now, looks like we're getting close to 80 trillion naira in market capitalization. Of course, trading volumes rose to 5.3 billion shares, which again suggests investors are probably seeing something that you're not seeing, because I mean, there was a whole lot of money going into the stock market last week. 90 stocks gained, 90 stocks gained, and just 16 declined. I mean, like, the bulls were on complete rampage last week, and I don't know, looks like this momentum could be sustained again this week. I mean, it's like there's some wave of optimism out there in the market that, I mean, I can't seem to, deny that I'm not loving. I'm loving it, really. Insurance sectors, of course, led the pack, soaring 38.3% during the week, thanks to stocks like ICO. Can you imagine ICO did 41.9% in 1 week? What? This is a stock that I thought was dead already, but hey, look at it, 41.9% in 1 week. Mansard, which we've talked about in our stock recommendation before. If you're Follow the Money, if you're following our blog, ftm.ng, and you did subscribe or you did purchase Mansard when we did recommend, you're probably going to be up 28% this week already. Last week, 28%. Banking index gained 12.4%. Of course, driven by Zenith. Zenith did 21%. UBA did 19%. GTB also did pretty strong at the end of the week as well. I'm going to go into our gainers and losers last week, but what an incredible week it was for most stocks. Oil and gas index, surprisingly, were the only ones that sort of pulled back a little bit. But that looks like it's temporary. So major week for Nigerian stocks. And there were other highlights as well, which I will get into at some point during the show. GTCO, of course, was in the news. Big news. I was there live when it did happen. What an exciting moment. What a great moment for Nigeria. Out there at the London Stock Exchange. Presco also was in the news. Presco declared 42 naira per share dividend for shareholders of Presco. Now you pretty understand why the stock has been essentially driving up all week round. Gerrigo also released his numbers during the week as well. Released his Q2 earnings. As the frequent flyer, always one of the first to release their numbers, and so they did meet that record for Q2. So earnings season is approaching. I mean, very soon, like I just mentioned, Gerrigo just dropped his numbers. You're going to be seeing a lot of results pull through all through the week, into next week, and into August. And so this is obviously going to impact share prices as we go on, because, hey, companies tend to pay dividend interim dividend as well. So companies that would pay interim dividend are likely going to be impacted by share price surge. It's just incredible what has happened over the last few weeks, especially when we all thought banks were all going to be flogged because of the forbearance issues. But here we are. It looks like it's a huge week, or looking like a very great month for Nigerian stocks. So despite having, gainers, we did have losers as well. So who were the losers during the week? We start with Presco, that has been one of the top gainers, one of the best performers this month, did pull back a little bit, 3.29%, of course. They've declared dividends, so everything that investors have been waiting to see, they have seen already. Etana also dropped 3.49%. I did mention that oil and gas stocks seem to have pulled off a little bit. Northern Nigerian Flour Mills down 4.17%. Sunu Assurance PLC down 4.2%. Cornerstone down 4.67%. And eTransact down 4.9%. To round up the top 6 losers, or the bottom 6 losers. And then you now have Prestige Assurance at 5.3%. Owando PLC also lost 6% during the week. IEI Insurance lost 6.7%. And Legend Internet, the newly listed company, lost 12.6%. To make it the biggest loser of the week. I mean, like when you lose 12 point something percent in the week, like the entire week, that's not a lot, because kind of looks like you have a lot more stocks that are losing. I mean, we've seen stocks that lose 20 something percent in 1 week. So 12 point something percent, not that bad. Then we go straight to the gainers. Just check this out. Number 10 on the gainers list, number 10, gained a whopping 49% in 1 week. I mean, just think about it. If you put 1 million naira in Associated Bus Company ABC, you would have gained 490,000 naira in 1 week. Astonishing stuff. And that's number 10. Academy Press gained 49% in 1 week as well. Nigerian Exchange Group gained 54.8% in 1 week. Ella Lakes gained 55% in 1 week. Thomas Wyatt gained 59% in 1 week. To round off the bottom 5 gainers of the week. I mean, the bottom 5 gainers, the least was 49%. And it will go on to Meria PLC. They gained 60% in 1 week. CNI Leasing gained 60% to make it number 4. And Omatech Ventures gained 60.4%. A lot of them in the 60% percentile, basically. Red Star Express 60.5 and FTN Cocoa to top the list at 60.6%. So astonishing week for stocks. As you can see, mega gains all through. Which of the stocks was on your list? If you've been following FTM, you probably might have a couple of some of the stocks on our list. Like I always say, a lot of the stocks are very thin in terms of volume. So the fact that they're gaining doesn't necessarily mean that it's a good buy for you, because what is a good buy sometimes has thin volume, which means you might not be able to sell when you want to sell. So you always want to have stocks that you are essentially buying that has good liquidity, which means you can sell whenever you want to sell, except maybe you want to just hold it for so long. And I always say that, look, I don't know if Nigerian stocks are one of those things you want to hold for so long. When you buy Nigerian stocks, like I always say, you have to always track them and be sure that they are delivering the way you want them to deliver, so that you just don't carry the bag, right? All right, so we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll look at the second segment of the show, and we're going to talk about, the top news during the week, perhaps give you an insight into why stocks did so well last week. Be right back. All right, welcome to the second segment of the show. If you're just watching this is Follow the Money, brought to you by Nairametrics. You can catch us on our YouTube channel, which you currently are in, I guess. So we do this every Monday on this channel. So you can catch new episodes on Mondays, as well as other interesting episodes on our Nairametrics channel. Have you seen the latest episode of Drinks and Mics? We did discuss crypto on that episode, and a few other interesting programs that we have on Nairametrics TV. All right, we'll dive right into it. So I want to talk about pension funds, but before that, let's just get this out of the way. So Champions Breweries, they've been in the news for a bit, and share price has been going up. And why is that happening? That's because they did announce a capital raise. The company said it's seeking shareholder approval to issue up to 5 billion ordinary shares of 50 kobo each. The share price currently about 7 naira. So you're looking at 7 times 5, probably about 30 something billion that the company is looking to raise. Shares may be issued via public offer, right issue, or other methods. I mean, that's basically saying that their shareholders are giving them approval to raise money by any means legally possible. Pricing, they said, will be determined by book building or other approved methods. The board is also requesting permission to accept over subscriptions and adjust share capital accordingly. Champion Breweries is in the brewery space, dominated largely by the big three, Nigerian breweries, Guinness, and international breweries. So they are in the fringes and they operate mostly on the south and southeast region of the country and have a very good market share there as well. So interesting to see what they're trying to do. They seem to also have a debt strategy. The company is also seeking to raise up to 45 billion through convertible and non-convertible debt instruments, potentially including notes, debt notes, green bonds, and hybrid security. We've seen a lot of companies go into that bond or fixed income securities markets to raise money over the last few weeks. So it looks like that is what Champions Breweries is trying to do. How has the stock performed? I have a bad history about Champion Breweries. For those who have been following me for a while, this was one stock that taught me a great lesson. I bought it sometime in 2014 at about 7 naira per share, and it fell to 1 naira per share. I held it for that long until I sold it off at probably 5 naira. And just imagine, this stock is now trading at about 10 naira per share. So it's taken the stock about 10 years to recover. Now just imagine what the exchange rate was in 2014 and now. It's just crazy, right? Anyway, back up 10 naira. It's gained 162% this year alone. First half of this year is returned 162%. July is gaining over 50% already. And trading volumes are 907 million shares. Now, like I always say, very thin trading volumes. The fact that it is growing, I always tell you guys 3 reasons why share price grow in Nigeria. Well, 3 things that influence share prices. Three things: fundamentals, technicals, boardroom action. So boardroom action is probably internal things that's happening within that company that just a few people are probably privy to, or maybe it's probably out there. It could be an acquisition. It could be a plan to raise money like you just heard. It's just things that are not directly linked to the company's results, things that you and I will probably see when they publish their numbers. And so this rally that we've seen that has given Champions Breweries 162% gain in the first half of the year appears to have been boardroom action. I might be wrong, but hey, that's me speaking. All right, next on the top news was GTCO. So GTCO was in the news the whole of last week. Amazing, announcement that they had, achievement that they had at the London Stock Exchange. They became the first West African financial institution to list on the London Stock Exchange. They are also the third, I think, if I'm not mistaken, third Nigerian company to list on the London Stock Exchange after Seplat and Airtel Africa. Airtel Africa is listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange as well. So we now have 3 companies listed, dual listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange and the London Stock Exchange as well. I mean, we do call ours a Nigerian exchange these days, but I mean, so GTCO listed 2.29 billion ordinary shares on the NGX at 17 naira per share, just to boost, and then the move boost total issued shares to 36.4 billion, up from 34 billion units. So listed 2.29 billion shares on the London Stock Exchange. This is happening just one day. The shares listed under the UK Financial Conduct Authority, blah, 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 and all the stories. But this was huge for GTB. GTB does need to complete is 500 billion minimum capital raise, of course, set by the CBN. They had raised 209 billion locally already, and the bank is looking to raise the balance from institutional and diverse pool of investors. I did get a chance to speak to Segun Agbaje, and it was interesting seeing him laying out the vision for the bank. And he did tell me that The plan was to complete that raise pretty soon. In fact, he did also mention that, hey, look at it. Last year, when they did the first raise, they raised it about 50 naira or so plus when they did their public offer. But guess what? The current GDR conversion into equity is happening at 70 naira per share. And as of last week, GTB was trading about 90 something naira per share. So they are basically going to raise the balance of their capital, issuing less shares. So that is great for shareholders, because then when you issue less shares, it impacts your earnings per share and the share price essentially stays elevated. So good stuff for GTB as well. I did press him on what sort of returns he was looking for. And he mentioned that he was looking at 15% dividend yield. I mean, as far as he was concerned, he says, look, Ugo, I don't expect to see any Nigerian company declare less than 15% dividend yield. That's sort of like what you'll be targeting. Again, dividend yield is total dividend paid divided by the market per share, market price per share. So, I mean, it's kind of like a moving target, but I guess his point is that at the point that you're declaring dividend, you have to be able to match your market price. A dividend yield of 15% is pretty high though, but that's what he's targeting. And he also says he's targeting return on equity of 25%. Interestingly, GTCO has always done a very high ROE. I don't recall them doing an ROE of less than 20% in years, except perhaps in one of those years where, banks had to take in a lot of write-downs, but not GTCO. They seem to always do that. The bank says 67% of its group profit is from Nigeria, 27% is from West Africa, 1.5% is from East Africa, and 1.8% from the UK. They are targeting expansion outside Nigeria as well, outside its current regions. I did ask if there were plans to go to the US, and he says, look, no, we don't have plans to go to the US. However, they might be looking at East Asia as one of those places they want to go and open an outlet. But in the immediate, I think that there's gonna be a GTCO in Senegal. I did also ask him, look, how are all these subsidiaries that he's having is going to contribute to, to the bank's top line and bottom line? Of course, they are raising a lot of capital now, so they've got to be able to deploy that capital into different areas. And he said to me that, look, GT Bank's style is not to essentially dominate the entire African space as, some other banks do. Their own strategy essentially is to dominate wherever they operate in. So if they're operating in 3 countries, they want to be the biggest, or at least among the biggest in those countries, rather than just be the biggest, or be the bank that has the most outlets in Africa. So that's kind of like their strategy. I mean, both have its own disadvantages and disadvantages. That's not what I want to talk about here. I can talk about that some other time. But that essentially is their strategy. So good stuff for GTCO last week. It was very, I mean, I could see him basically tearing up. He was tearing up. A number of guys in the hall were also tearing up as well, because it was very emotional for them. Backstory was that there was a lot of hard work that went into it. It almost looked like, it wasn't going to happen, even though it was going to happen. But you know how it is now when you're under a lot of pressure and under a lot of tension. And finally, they pushed it through. Interestingly, guess what? I actually saw a lawyer, one of the lawyers who, helped broker that entire transaction. The lawyer said she was actually there several years ago when they did their GDR. I think that was in 2010 or 2011. And now she's coming back as a partner of the same law firm, now that they are being listed on the exchange. So proud moment for GTB and GTB shareholders as well. All right, so we'll move on to Nigeria's debt. So there was before I get to Nigeria's debt, let's talk about MTN. MTN says it is deploying AI in Nigeria to boost network performance and customer experience. I don't know what that means. Does it mean that AI is going to be responding to some of your complaints? I don't know, but I mean, AI seems to be taking over the world, but MTN says accelerating its digital transformation across Africa with the rollout of artificial intelligence technologies, and Nigeria is going to be a key beneficiary. I mean, I love AI. I mean, I use AI all the time, but I mean, not all companies know how to deploy AI effectively, and it could just be something really expensive to deploy. Even Apple, one of the biggest companies or largest companies in the world, is struggling to deploy AI across its services. The much touted Apple intelligence hasn't really taken over the world as a lot of us thought. So I really don't know what MTN wants to do with this, but they claim that AI is already being used to improve network management, and also mentioned that they are doing that in other countries. For example, in South Africa, they said intelligent fuel consumption management in data centers. So they use AI to essentially monitor fuel consumption. In Benin, or Benin Republic, dynamic energy management. In Cote d'Ivoire, fiber cut detection and prevention. So sometimes AI doesn't really have to do with them, with maybe like like ChatGPT, where you ask a question and response to you. So AI can basically just be some sort of data mining tool that you can use to improve your efficiency. That kind of looks like where MTN is looking at. So they said to drive this vision, they are setting up an AI center, a cloud COE, Center of Excellence, they call it Cloud COE. And they have a team of 300 engineers developing scalable, responsible AI solutions across the continent. So interesting stuff. Man, for me though, I just want to know what this means for MTN shareholders. MTN has been one of my best performing stocks in my portfolio. So, they just keep it going. We do expect MTN to declare profit this year. They have to declare profit this year after 2 years back-to-back losses. Profit is expected. The share price is doing absolutely well. Absolutely well for those of us who own the stock. All right, Ecobank also launched it's $250 million tier 1 capital raise, all towards meeting central bank's capital requirement. The parent company of Ecobank Group, ETI, has kicked off its $250 million tier 1 issuance through private placement and convertible notes. The capital raise approved at the bank's EGM in May started on July 9 and will run for 10 days. And who is advising this structure? Renaissance Capital is advising on the deal, which qualifies as additional tier 1 capital under the Basel III agreement. And so if you are a shareholder of ETI, the company is raising massive capital. They did raise $125 million back in May, which saw investor demand of $235 million, leading the bank to upscale the deal price at 9.375. So ETI it's not a full gas technically, because most of the full gas are here in Nigeria, but ETI is one of the largest banks operating in Nigeria, even though it's not like a Nigerian bank per se. So it's an ECOWAS bank, but it's one of the largest banks, and looks like it's already met its capitalization target. All right, so we go to debt. So the Debt Management Office dismissed recent media reports suggesting that the FG spends $611 billion on servicing domestic debt. I don't know where that story came from anyway. On servicing domestic US dollar denominated bond issued in March 2025. I don't know. Anyway, according to DMO, statement released during the week, it said that it clarified it and said there was only $67.9 billion that was spent servicing that particular bond, calling the large figure entirely wrong. So you try to break down the figure, and I guess this is where it was all mixed up. So he said the $611 billion that they did mention was the total debt service for all FGN bonds in March, excluding the dollar bonds. That's an astronomical amount of money we're spending servicing debt. Anyway, $611 billion for FGN bonds. Nigeria's total public debt is about 140 or 150 trillion. So, what do you expect? And so $67.9 billion of that was used for debt servicing, and the principal on the dollar bond has not yet been repaid and is due in 2029. Yeah, I think I actually bought that bond, if I'm not mistaken. So I should check and see, what the bond price is. I haven't done that in a bit. So Nigeria's debt profile still has a high at 149 trillion. Domestic debt, of course, is 78 trillion out of that amount. And looks like our debt profile continues to rise. So why does this matter? Of course, on Follow the Money, we do follow the money, and our subscribers, most of you also buy fixed income securities, which include risk-free ones like FGM bonds. And so whenever there's a story like this, very important that you bring it to your attention so that you follow. All right, so we're going to close the show with some news on the pension side. So pension industry numbers came out in June, as reported by Nairametrics, with an average fund return of 2.56%. I don't know for these guys. They seem to be trailing I kind of think that they're trailing the all share index. I mean, that's just me. Anyway, 2.56% across retirement savings account. And top performing fund was the RSA Fund 1, which is for aggressive investors, and it led with 3.7% average return. Fund 2 for investors under 50 returned 3%, and Fund 3 for investors 50 and above returned 2%, and Fund 5 or Fund 4, I beg your pardon, for retirees delivered 1.47%. Of course, the aggressive ones tend to take more risk, so you expect to see more return there. And the best performing PFA for that month was Fidelity Pensions with 6%. Highest among all, of course, trust fund pensions came second with 5.78% for Fund 1. Fidelity Pension was also Fund 1. Pension Alliance, 5.01% in Fund 1, 4.74% in Fund 2, while Crusader Sterling and Leadway Pension also posted solid returns as well. So total pension assets now at a whopping 24.1 trillion. I know I said whopping, but I mean, by the time you dollarize these things, it's really not that big anymore, right? 24.1 trillion. That's really what's meant to drive a lot of the growth we're seeing in this economy. These numbers need to be on like 50 trillion or there. But anyway, 24 trillion is still a sizable amount of money for pensions. Domestic equities, as part of the total pension fund asset, is just 2.75 trillion. So you can see the total market capitalization is hitting 80 trillion. Pension funds don't even make up 5% in terms of the total market capitalization of the exchange. RSA Fund 2 remained dominant with 10 trillion in NAV, and then total pension fund registrants, as those of us that pay pension, combined 10.7 million people, up 4.3% year on year. Looks like these numbers really need to keep going up, because at 10.4 million is still quite sizable, considering we have over 100 million workforce. That's like 10% of our workforce, but there's a whole lot of work to do for us to drive pension enrollment in the country. All right, this has been Follow the Money, brought to you by Nairametrics. Of course, if you want to check some of my exclusive articles, exclusive posts, you're not going to find them on Nairametrics.com. I mean, it doesn't mean that you can't find stuff on Nairametrics. But this one is purely for subscribers, because I do give out recommendations there. And recommendations have to go to people who really want to invest and who understand investing. Just go there, ftm.ng, right there on the screen, ftm.ng. And you can subscribe to that blog, and it's just going to cost you, I mean, it's not a lot, 10K a month. I mean, you can make the entire annual subscription fee in just one trade. Yeah, so it's a giveaway. All right, so I see you guys again next week. Do have a profitable week ahead. Goodbye.